What's up, cool people? My name's Matt, aka That Random Christian Gamer. Welcome to tonight's live stream. And I wasn't even a minute into it when I got the random friggin' spammy chat comment that's like, yo, your stream's kind of dead. Go to this place to get more viewers. Like, come on, people. Like, how, when I'm not even a minute in, do you find my stream and spam it like that? Anyway, so yeah, the plan for tonight is Bible study to start things off, and then, you know, obviously time for discussion during that, after that, whenever. But ultimately, like, the plan, if there's not a whole lot of conversation going on in the chat and whatnot, will be just kind of some random custom stuff in Slay the Spire. Because, I don't know, it's still a game that I enjoy coming back to, even if I sort of cleared the campaign, or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, anyway, that's the plan. Not really too much else to say, except that tonight's stream will probably be about more like 2 hours instead of 3, because I've been asked to go into work tomorrow, and so I'd like to get a little more sleep. Even if I end up waking up at roughly the same time, because I don't have to go in as early as I normally would, I still would like to make sure I'm well rested. So, yeah. Might be more like 2 hours instead of 3. But we'll still definitely have time to get through Bible study stuff. And probably at least some sort of at least an act or two of a custom Slay the Spire run. We'll see. Anyway, hi Seth. Hope you're doing well. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and run the early Twitch ads, and then we'll hop into Bible study. Shorter stream today, and yeah, probably later stream tomorrow. Depending on how much later. Whoa, I need to actually change the window that I have active in my browser before I do that. There we go. Change the tab in the active window. Anyway, details. Yeah, and because of tomorrow's live stream likely being a bit later than normal, I might not end up doing my usual Friday night, go to the card shop and play some Magic the Gathering. Might not. I don't know. That's not totally decided yet. Anyway. Yeah, so the reason for me going into work tomorrow is because they're doing like a big it's inventory, not of the whole plant factory, whatever you want to call it, but of like specifically the wire that we put in a lot of our units, which I directly deal with more than just about anybody else. So that's why I will be involved in wire inventory things. Anyway. Okay. Bible study time, I guess. Here we go. Okay. 2 Chronicles chapter 33. So in the recapping of Judah's history, with a lot of focus on the kings, we've gotten pretty close to the end. The last king, Hezekiah, did really well in a lot of things. Kind of maybe was a bit too friendly with some representatives from Babylon. But otherwise, it's not really anything that you'd look at his time as king and be like, wow, that was really dumb or bad or whatever. He did a lot of good for the kingdom of Judah. However, he has since passed away, whatever your phrase is for no longer living. And now his son has become king. And as we've seen with previous kings in the succession, just because the previous one was really good doesn't mean their son will be equally good or even anywhere near as good. So, yeah. Not too much else to say to let you know what's been going on. So here we go. 2 Chronicles chapter 33. Manasseh was 12 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 55 years. He did what was evil in the Lord's sight, following the detestable practices of the pagan nations that the Lord had driven from the land ahead of the Israelites. He rebuilt the pagan shrines his father Hezekiah had broken down. He constructed altars for the images of Baal and set up Asherah poles. He also bowed before all the powers of the heavens and worshipped them. He built pagan altars in the temple of the Lord, the place where the Lord had said, "My name will remain in Jerusalem forever." He built these altars for all the powers of the heavens in both courtyards of the Lord's temple. Manasseh also sacrificed his own sons in the fire in the valley of Ben Hinnom. He practiced sorcery, divination, and witchcraft, and he consulted with mediums and psychics. Almost read that as physics. Anyway, he did much that was evil in the Lord's sight, arousing his anger. His being the Lord's anger. I gotta imagine this note about his sons, or his sacrificing his sons in the fire, will read similar to the last time that came up. Yeah, so could be translated as made his sons pass through the fire. I imagine the original Hebrew wording or whatever is in the manuscripts, like, could potentially mean either. But just as I said before, that it was a pagan practice anyway, pagan ritual kind of thing, and it wasn't what God commanded them to do. And of course, if he did actually sacrifice his own sons, then that much worse. So yeah, after one of the best kings Judah ever had, arguably the best one since at least Solomon, yeah, his son comes in and kind of messes things up. Although, he was only 12 years old when he became king. So you kind of got to wonder how much he was influenced by other people, especially early on during his reign. Like, Joash was a good example of a young king, but only because the people around him, who were the actual adults, who were really sort of leading him, if not actually leading the kingdom, those were good people. Like, he had constant instruction from priests and Levites and those who were already close to God. It doesn't say that for Manasseh here. It doesn't really say that he had, horrible advisors, but there's definitely the possibility, at least as we've read so far. Kind of leaves you wondering why God would allow him to rule for 55 years. But, like, there's not always, like, one's loyalty to God does not always determine span of life or leadership. I think we can even see examples of that today. I'm not going to point at anybody, not going to point to anybody specifically, because it's a bit of a tangent and we're not here for that anyway. So yeah, Manasseh does a lot of bad stuff, making a bunch of idols and shrines to pagan gods and things like that. And God's angry. Also doesn't say how old he was when he started doing this stuff. Just saying. Anyway. Alright. On to verse 7. Manasseh even took a carved idol he had made and set it up in God's temple, the very place where God had told David and his son Solomon, "My name will be honored forever in this temple and in Jerusalem, the city I have chosen from among all the tribes of Israel. If the Israelites will be careful to obey my commands, all the laws, decrees, and regulations given through Moses, I will not send them into exile from this land that I set aside for your ancestors." But Manasseh led the people of Judah and Jerusalem to do even more evil than the pagan nations that the Lord had destroyed when the people of Israel entered the land. So, he's not just doing the same kinds of things that the pagan nations did before God's people came into the promised land. According to this, he's doing stuff that's even worse. And part of the reason it's worse might be because he's setting these things up specifically in places that were designated for worshiping the Lord. I'm getting some, like, almost deja vu from when I probably talked about this in 2 Kings. But, yeah, and he didn't just do this stuff himself and say, here's who/what I'm going to worship. It says he led the people of Judah and Jerusalem to do evil things. So he's not just keeping it to himself. It's not just his own private worship life or whatever you want to call it. It's very public at the very least. If not being, like, outright encouraged or even commanded for the other people to do these things. Anyway. Verse 10. The Lord spoke to Manasseh and his people, but they ignored all his warnings. So the Lord sent the commanders of the Assyrian armies, and they took Manasseh prisoner. They put a ring through his nose, bound him in bronze chains, and led him away to Babylon. But while in deep distress, Manasseh sought the Lord his God and sincerely humbled himself before the God of his ancestors. And when he prayed, the Lord listened to him and was moved by his request. So the Lord brought Manasseh back to Jerusalem and to his kingdom. Then Manasseh finally realized that the Lord alone is God. Okay, so big turn of events for Manasseh. You know, it's kind of unfortunate that it's often when we hit our lowest point that we finally draw close to God, but it's like, the good news is God is there and will hear us out even after we've done a bunch of bad things. When we're at our lowest point and have pretty much nothing else or no one else to depend on or to even ask for help, God will still come in and change the story, so to speak. So, I do wonder a little bit how long that he was imprisoned. But I suppose that's not crucial information to the story. Sorry. Man. But the point is that when he was, you know, in deep distress, basically at the lowest point of his life, at least up until then, but probably overall, that was when he finally turned to God, and then God did not turn him away despite all the bad things he had done. God was still like, okay, I can tell you're sincere. I hear you. I will put you back where you belong with your people. Okay. Verse 14. After this, Manasseh rebuilt the outer wall of the city of David, from west of the Gihon Spring in the Kidron Valley to the Fish Gate, and continuing around the hill of Ophel. He built the wall very high, and he stationed his military officers in all of the fortified towns of Judah. Manasseh also removed the foreign gods and the idol from the Lord's temple. He tore down all the altars he had built on the hill where the temple stood, and all the altars that were in Jerusalem, and he dumped them outside the city. Then he restored the altar of the Lord and sacrificed peace offerings and thanksgiving offerings on it. He also encouraged the people of Judah to worship the Lord, the God of Israel. However, the people still sacrificed at the pagan shrines, though only to the Lord their God. Let me read this next paragraph here. The rest of the events of Manasseh's reign, his prayer to God, and the words the seers spoke to him in the name of the Lord, the God of Israel, are recorded in the book of the kings of Israel. Manasseh's prayer, the account of the way God answered him, and an account of all his sins and unfaithfulness are recorded in the record of the seers. It includes a list of the locations where he built pagan shrines and set up Asherah poles and idols before he humbled himself and repented. When Manasseh died, he was buried in his palace. Then his son Ammon became the next king. Okay, so Manasseh at least undid a bunch of the bad stuff that he did. Specifically in and around the Temple of the Lord. However, it seems like he didn't go full tilt and, like, destroy all of the things that were set up around the kingdom. Now, I do find it interesting that the people were sacrificing at the pagan shrines, but to the Lord. So it makes me wonder if they were, you know, doing that just kind of themselves, their own way, rather than, you know, having the priests go through the proper rituals and things like that. I mean, it's certainly not unheard of for God to repurpose things. Even things that were initially, like, anti-God. But, like, the fact of the people using the pagan shrines to make their offerings, like, it's not ideal. It's not the way that it was supposed to happen. Not the way that God commanded. So, like, yeah. That's, I guess, part of the reason I felt it necessary to point out that Manasseh didn't go, like, all the way with undoing the harm / damage, or whatever you want to call it, that he had done to the kingdom. At least, you know, with regard to turning people away from the Lord. Okay. Note here in verse 19. I could say the record of Hosea instead of the record of the seers. My guess is Hosea was a particular person, probably a seer. But I'm not real sure about that. That's definitely not a biblical record. This Book of the Kings of Israel might actually be like what we call First and Second Kings. But yeah, nothing that matches that record of the seers in the Bible, to my knowledge. Unless it's got an entirely different name. Okay. Just wanted to make sure there weren't any other thoughts that I had on that. Not really. I don't seem to recall Second Kings looking so positively upon the end of Manasseh's reign, but anyway. I'll just move along. On to verse 21. Ammon was 22 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 2 years. He did what was evil in the Lord's sight, just as his father Manasseh had done, at least at one point. He worshipped and sacrificed to all the idols his father had made. But unlike his father, he did not humble himself before the Lord. Instead, Ammon sinned even more. Then Ammon's own officials conspired against him and assassinated him in his palace. But the people of the land killed all those who had conspired against King Ammon, and they made his son Josiah the next king. Okay, so I mean, Ammon was only king for 2 years. He probably didn't even have the time that Manasseh had to, you know, humble himself, as it says in here. Probably didn't have time like Manasseh did. Manasseh was king, what, 55 years it said? Yeah, 55 years. So, I actually had another thought about an earlier verse, because it mentioned Manasseh removed the foreign gods and the idol from the Lord's temple, and he dumped them outside the city. Just says that he dumped them. Didn't destroy them. I don't think, removed. Now, it does say he tore down all the altars on the hill and dumped them. So, those might have been legitimately destroyed. But, makes me wonder if some of the things weren't totally destroyed and might have gotten picked up by somebody else. Ammon, in any case, I would think... I guess it's possible for him to, worship these idols without necessarily doing it in the temple. Because all the stuff like that from the temple was supposed to be gone. So, in any case, yeah, short, bad king for Judah in Ammon here. And I don't really have too many other thoughts. So yeah, he got assassinated, but then the assassins got killed. So if the assassins were going to choose somebody else to be king, they didn't really get a chance. So it still followed the typical kingly succession, and Ammon's son Josiah became the next king. Okay, that's really all I got for now on 2 Chronicles chapter 33. So there you have it. Also, noting the very nice 7-stream streak that Seth is on here. I probably said it before at the, 3 or 5 stream streak, but, your loyalty and consistency are appreciated. Okay. This chapter is a bit longer than the previous one. So let's not dawdle too much and get right into it here. More Bible study after a sip of water. Okay. Alrighty. 2 Chronicles chapter 34. We've gone through a bunch of the kings of Judah. The previous couple of kings... Well, okay, let's rewind a little bit. This is, of course, after the kingdom had split, and there was Judah and Benjamin as one kingdom separate from the other tribes. That other kingdom was conquered by the Assyrians. This is just the one that's Judah and Benjamin. And that's really been the focus of 1st and 2nd Chronicles anyway, because this is originally targeted at the ones who were exiled from Judah. And yeah, we've had some ups and downs with the previous kings. The most recent 2 kings, at least for part of their reigns, did not worship God, set up a bunch of idols and things like that, and generally wasn't good. One of them managed to undo at least part of that before he died. But the second one was only king for 2 years, and so he did some bad stuff, got assassinated, and then that was it for him. And that was King Ammon, who was the father of the king we're about to read about. So, anyway, here we go. 2 Chronicles, chapter 34. Josiah was 8 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 31 years. He did what was pleasing in the Lord's sight, and followed the example of his ancestor David. He did not turn away from doing what was right. During the 8th year of his reign, while he was still young, Josiah began to seek the God of his ancestor David. Then in the 12th year, he began to purify Judah and Jerusalem, destroying all the pagan shrines, the Asherah poles, and the carved idols and cast images. He ordered that the altars of Baal be demolished, and that the incense altars which stood above them be broken down. He also made sure that the Asherah poles, the carved idols, and the cast images were smashed and scattered over the graves of those who had sacrificed to them. He burned the bones of the pagan priests on their own altars, and so he purified Judah and Jerusalem. He did the same thing in the towns of Manasseh, Ephraim, and Simeon, even as far as Naphtali, and in the regions all around them. He destroyed the pagan altars and the Asherah poles, and he crushed the idols into dust. He cut down all the incense altars throughout the land of Israel. Finally, he returned to Jerusalem. Okay, so this now again, Josiah was only 8 years old when he became king. Other people probably had a significant influence on what happened early on in his reign. But it says he began to seek the God of his ancestor David during the 8th year of his reign. So he was 16 then, still fairly young, but like old enough to start really being able to think more for himself. And then 4 years later, so then when he's 20, that's when he really started putting in the effort to cleanse Judah and Jerusalem in particular of all these foreign pagan things. All these idols and other things that were used to worship other gods. And it mentions him doing this in Manasseh, Ephraim, Simeon, and even as far as Naphtali. So, like, those were other tribes of Israel, not Judah and Benjamin, that were the primary part of the kingdom that he ruled over, but other tribes of Israel who should have at least worshipped the same God, certainly had the same ancestry stemming from people who worshipped the same God. So, almost in a way similar to how Hezekiah, who was, like 3 generations before Josiah? Similar to how Hezekiah had some impact on other tribes outside of the proper territory of his kingdom, it seems like Josiah is also having some impact for others descended from God's people outside the proper boundaries of his kingdom, I'd imagine. Because again, all those other tribes were in a different kingdom after the whole Jeroboam-Rehoboam split. So, let me look at this note here in verse 6. That comes from the Syriac version. Hebrew reads, in their temples or in their ruins. Meaning of the Hebrews uncertain. Well, I mean, in their ruins makes a bunch of sense because of the, other tribes, the kingdom that was composed of the other tribes being conquered by the Assyrians. I imagine a lot of things were in ruins after that. But, I mean, I guess they might have also had other places of worship. I mean, the kingdom of the other tribes definitely had their own places of worship because those kings didn't want the people going to Jerusalem and possibly becoming inclined to stay there due to the regular ceremonies and festivals and whatnot. So, I mean, yeah, in any case, the point is still the same. He tore down a bunch of these pagan idols and shrines and things like that. All across the land, we'll say. Okay. So then he returned to Jerusalem after doing all this. And we get to verse 8. In the 18th year of his reign, after he had purified the land and the temple, Josiah appointed Shaphan, son of Azaliah, Manasseh, the governor of Jerusalem, and Joah, son of Joahaz. Sorry, I wanted to put some extra syllables in there. Anyway, Joah, son of Joahaz, the royal historian, to repair the temple of the Lord his God. They gave Hilkiah the high priest the money that had been collected by the Levites who served as gatekeepers at the temple of God. The gifts were brought by people from Manasseh, Ephraim, and from all the remnant of Israel, as well as from all Judah, Benjamin, and the people of Jerusalem. He entrusted the money to the men assigned to supervise the restoration of the Lord's temple. Then they paid the workers who did the repairs and renovation of the temple. They hired carpenters and builders who purchased finished stone for the walls and timber for the rafters and beams. They restored what earlier kings of Judah had allowed to fall into ruin. The workers served faithfully under the leadership of Jahath and Obadiah, Levites of the Merarite clan, and Zechariah and Meshullam, Levites of the Kohathite clan. Other Levites, all of whom were skilled musicians, were put in charge of the laborers of the various trades. Still others assisted as secretaries, officials, and gatekeepers. Okay, so 18th year, let's see here. He was, 20 in his 12th year, so 26 now. Not that it's that important how old he was when all these things happened. I'm just like, okay, I know, so like my brain wants to crunch the numbers anyway. So, basically, he is once again repairing the temple. Seems like there's been a bunch of times that the temple has needed to be repaired. I think this is at least the fourth. I mean, I don't know how much it needed to be repaired during Hezekiah's time. I think it was just like all the bad stuff was removed and it was like purified and whatnot. But anyway, still, multiple times over that the temple of God has needed to be repaired. So, yeah. They hire people to do all that work, and the Levites, I guess, kind of supervise all of that in various ways. So, yeah. Either after that or in the process of doing that, we get to verse 14. While they were bringing out the money collected at the Lord's temple, Hilkiah the priest found the book of the law of the Lord that was written by Moses. Hilkiah said to Shaphan the court secretary, "I have found the book of the law in the Lord's temple." Then Hilkiah gave the scroll to Shaphan. Shaphan took the scroll to the king and reported, "Your officials are doing everything they were assigned to do. The money that was collected at the temple of the Lord has been turned over to the supervisors and workmen." Shaphan also told the king, "Hilkiah the priest has given me a scroll." So Shaphan read it to the king. When the king heard what was written in the law, he tore his clothes in despair. Then he gave these orders to Hilkiah: Ahikam, son of Shaphan, Akbor, son of Micaiah, Shaphan, the court secretary, and Asaiah, the king's personal advisor. So, the instructions being, go to the temple and speak to the Lord for me and for all the remnant of Israel and Judah. Inquire about the words written in the scroll that has been found. For the Lord's great anger has been poured out on us because our ancestors have not obeyed the word of the Lord. We have not been doing everything this scroll says we must do. Alright, so at least in the midst of the repairs being done, it seems, as they were handling various, money and materials and things like that, and perhaps even, just doing the building part of things and having to rearrange stuff for that temporarily, like remove a bad block, place a new good block or something like that. I don't know. It doesn't specifically say where Hilkiah found the book of the law, but anyway, they find it. So, like, the stuff written by Moses, like the 10 Commandments and those laws, pretty much all the stuff that was told to the people shortly after the Israelites escaped from Egypt and went to Mount Sinai and got all that stuff. Possibly even more than that, but definitely that stuff. All those commands from God. And I mean, it was it was stated by God that, like, as long as they kept those laws, as long as God's people kept those laws that were written in that book, then they would not be exiled from basically the land that they're currently living in at this moment in the story. And that had been said by God to David and or Solomon. I think it might have even called that out specifically in the previous chapter at some point or another. Yeah, very place where God had told David and his son Solomon, "My name will be honored forever. If the Israelites are careful to obey all my commands, I will not send them into exile from this land that I set aside for your ancestors." And it mentions specifically the laws, decrees, and regulations given through Moses. That was this book that Hilkiah just found. So anyway, Hilkiah finds the scroll, hands it to the court secretary, who then goes to, King Josiah and says, "Here's this scroll that we found." Reads it, at least some of it, and then Josiah's like, we could be in big trouble here because our ancestors have not been doing these things. Can you go ask God about this for me? Like, see what we're supposed to do with this and about this knowledge? Otherwise, quick note here in verse 20, right after it mentions Micaiah, It comes from the parallel text, or it matches the parallel text in 2 Kings 22. Hebrew here reads Abdon, son of Micah, instead of Akbor, son of Micaiah. But why would the name be different between 2 Kings and 2 Chronicles? Could be another one of those Jacob, Israel kind of situations, or something where the name association changed, or could be like just, I don't know, similar names that still meant slightly different things. I don't know. Anyway, I don't need to be speculating on that too much. So let's move on to verse 22. So Hilkiah and the other men went to the new quarter of Jerusalem to consult with the prophet Huldah. She was the wife of Shallum, son of Tikvah, son of Harhas, the keeper of the temple wardrobe. She said to them, "The Lord, the God of Israel, has spoken. Go back and tell the man who sent you, this is what the Lord says. I am going to bring disaster on this city and on its people. All the curses written in the scroll that was read to the king of Judah will come true. For my people have abandoned me and offered sacrifices to pagan gods, and I am very angry with them for everything they have done. My anger will be poured out on this place, and it will not be quenched. But go to the king of Judah who sent you to seek the Lord and tell him, this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says concerning the message you have just heard. You were sorry and humbled yourself before God when you heard his words against this city and its people. You humbled yourself and tore your clothing in despair and wept before me in repentance. And I have indeed heard you, says the Lord. So I will not send the promised disaster until after you have died and been buried in peace. You yourself will not see the disaster I am going to bring on this city and its people." So they took her message back to the king. Okay. Interesting how they sought a prophet on this matter. Like, so Hilkiah was like the high priest, was, well, maybe not high priest, but he was a priest. So, I don't know what other means of seeking word from God they might have had at their disposal, but I guess it's still a fitting time to go seek a prophet. Also, I know I mentioned this back in 2 Kings, but female prophet, she was the wife of Shallum, keeper of the temple wardrobe. Not too many mentions of female prophets in the Bible, I'm just saying. Anyway, bunch of notes to look at. New quarter, note there says, or the second quarter, a newer section of Jerusalem. Hebrew reads the Mishneh. That's probably what it was actually named, or maybe Mishneh is like the Hebrew for second quarter or new quarter. I don't know, but so there was a newer section of Jerusalem. I mean, I guess because of walls having been rebuilt at various points and things like that, it's definitely possible that the city of Jerusalem had, like, expanded some. Or even just gone through some other change. Sorry. Or even just gone through some other change in the land area that it occupied. Anyway. So that was the note there about the new quarter. note after Harhas. That matches the parallel text at 2 Kings 22:14. Hebrew here reads, son of Tokhath, son of Hazra. Okay, so Tikva was instead Tokhath, and Harhas was Hazra. Those are fairly similar. I could see that being one of those variant spelling kind of situations. I shouldn't air quote that. That's more like because that's what was seen in a lot of notes about certain names that we've come across. How, like, basically it could be this spelling or this one, but the really variant spellings of the same name. So definitely talking about the same person. Probably even with the same meaning to their name. So, anyway, Huldah basically says, yeah, this city is going to be destroyed. God's angry, and he's not going to stop being angry until there's a bunch of destruction. Essentially. Maybe it doesn't say it exactly like that. Or she doesn't. It does mention curses here in the text. Written in the scroll. Coming true. But after saying that all this bad stuff would happen, she does then also go on to say, yes, this bad stuff is going to happen, but you, Josiah, have humbled yourself after hearing these things. So, because of your commitment and repentance, I'm not going to bring this about in your lifetime. Note there where it says the city. Hebrew says this place instead of this city. Similar enough. That place was the city of Jerusalem. Anyway. Man. Sorry about the yawns. Still had an early start today. Okay. Moving on to verse 29. Then the king summoned all the elders of Judah and Jerusalem. And the king went up to the temple of the Lord with all the people of Judah and Jerusalem, along with the priests and the Levites, all the people from the greatest to the least. There the king read to them the entire book of the covenant that had been found in the Lord's temple. The king took his place of authority beside the pillar and renewed the covenant in the Lord's presence. He pledged to obey the Lord by keeping all his commands, laws, and decrees with all his heart and soul. He promised to obey all the terms of the covenant that were written in the scroll. And he required everyone in Jerusalem and the people of Benjamin to make a similar pledge. People of Jerusalem did so, renewing their covenant with God, the God of their ancestors. So Josiah removed all detestable idols from the entire land of Israel and required everyone to worship the Lord their God. And throughout the rest of his lifetime, they did not turn away from the Lord, the God of their ancestors. The rest of his lifetime doesn't say about after him. It will in upcoming chapters, but that's all it says here. Sorry. Man. So, Josiah reads out the covenant to the people of Jerusalem, even of Benjamin, and is basically then says, all right, I plan to keep this covenant. You should too. In fact, I will, you know, make it, I as king declare that everyone should do this. So, if you want what's best for our people, you should be doing this too. Possibly even getting punished if they didn't. But now, back with previous kings, including Hezekiah, there was, you know, mention of turning people back to the Lord and making a renewed commitment to worship the Lord. I don't know how many, if any, of those kings actually, like, literally had the writings of Moses in front of them saying, here is exactly what we're going to do, as written by Moses when they made this covenant all these years ago with the Lord our God. It's the same God that we're supposed to be worshiping now. So if we, as descendants, almost said ancestors, opposite of that, if we, as descendants of those people who made this covenant with God, are, if we're going to be in good standing here and follow this covenant as well, like, we better do these things. So yeah, things, at least during Josiah's lifetime, seemed to go well from there, at least regarding their commitment to worshiping the Lord. But we will have to wait for what else, or, well, I mean, we in this format will have to wait for other chapters to get any more than that. You, of course, individually can feel free to read stuff from the Bible in your own time. But that's all I got for 2 Chronicles chapter 34. Also, hey Babs, hope you're doing well. Yeah, been reading through 2 Chronicles because of going through the Bible start to finish. So yeah, kind of getting near the end of 2 Chronicles, actually. In fact, there are only 2 more chapters. So, next week's live stream will be the last stream in which we study 2 Chronicles. Then we finally get past the recap. And that was actually the last chapter that I had planned for tonight's Bible study portion of the stream. So, yeah. I still appreciate you stopping by, Babs. I don't know if you're wanting to stick around for chill time and me playing some Slay the Spire. But definitely the floor is open, so to speak, for discussion. I do think I'm going to go ahead and run the next set of Twitch ads so they don't interrupt other things and gives me a little bit of transition time anyway before we hop into Slay the Spire. So Twitch folks, I will see y'all in a bit. Okay. Give me some water here. Throat feels ever so slightly sore after all of that. I was... granted, it's probably self-inflicted. I was talking a little bit on the louder side of things in amongst all the Bible study there. I actually do not play Minecraft. There might have been once or twice that I played it with some friends. But I don't know. Otherwise, it's like there's two. It's kind of like it's too open-ended for me. I'm not great with games that just kind of say, okay, here you are, do things. I'm better with games that are like, okay, here's a story, or at least a major objective or something that's fairly specific, and it'll kind of point you in a direction. But yeah, for the most part, no, do not play Minecraft. I do not play Minecraft, I mean. Not saying you shouldn't. I know there are plenty of things that can be done within Minecraft that people enjoy. And I am not saying anything bad about that. It's just not my preference. I did actually also, slightly more recently, meaning within the past couple of years, I guess, not long after Lego Fortnite became a thing, played a little bit of that with some, I'll say, online friends. That seemed to me like it had a little bit more structure and direction, at least in the early going. So, again, given my game preferences, I found that slightly better for me than actual Minecraft, even though it's rather similar. Alrighty. So, here we are. Playing Slay the Spire. I will say, before I get into anything else, like, I've been having the darndest time in my attempts at completing a standard run through Act 4 with the Ironclad. I don't really know what the problem is, other than I just can't really seem to get great combos going. Or if I do, I wind up bumping into a Snecko or some other thing that kind of derails the run. So, let me see what the daily climb is, just out of sheer curiosity. Specialized. Whenever you add a card to your deck, add 2 additional copies. Deadly events. Question mark rooms can now contain elites, but are also more likely to contain treasure rooms. Okay, well, that's the daily climb. I did kind of say we'd do custom stuff, so we'll do custom stuff. Any particular thoughts from our resident, or at least chat resident, Slay the Spire enjoyer? That, of course, being Seth. At least, I mean, hey, there might be other people in here who enjoy Slay the Spire. I just know for sure that Seth does. Speaking of which, I should change the category on Twitch. Okay. So also, I will say, there was an endless run that I did not too long ago. It might, although it might have been... I might have done it with the Watcher to try and, you know, get through the necessary experience to unlock all the things. I did manage to wrap around again after Act 3 one time, and then I think make it to the second iteration of Act 2. Okay, Ironclad. Ascension level 1. Draft. Hoarder. 2 additional copies. Okay. Binary. And Big Game Hunter. There's Big Game Hunter. Where's Binary? There it is. Okay. Alright, I guess that's what we're going with. I already have the Ironclad selected. Embark. And I would imagine we'll do our usual randomizing of the cards we draft. Which means either I'll have to wait on Seth's queue or I'll have to get my own dice. Okay, number 3. Two. Sword Boomerang. Yeah. Notice how it's adding 3 cards to my deck for each one of these I select. Another 2, I guess. Iron Wave. Four, which wraps back around to number 1, essentially. Affected Strike. 2, Pummel. 6, Cleave. 4, Second Wind. Another 4, Dark Embrace. 3. Yeah, no, getting Feel No Pain with that combo would have been too convenient. 2, Battle Trance. Draw the cards. Cannot draw additional cards this turn, okay. 5, which is basically another 2. And another 2. Well, at least we're stacking the Perfected Strikes, which all then help each other deal more damage, because they all have the word strike in the name. Another 2. Anger. Another 2? One. Okay. And randomized path selection as well. Oh man. 2 was the last card choice, right? Not the... Oh. Okay, 2 is the path. I guess I missed that somehow. Or was remembering that the 1 was the last card thing. Anyway, okay. Oh, let's see here. What do we got? Well, Perfected Strike. Can get rid of one of these guys right off the bat. Pummel, not quite. So I guess... I mean, I would take 6 damage, which is exactly the amount that I'm going to heal after the battle anyway. Could just do Pummel. Or I could play Shrug It Off and not take any damage. See what else I get. You know what? Battle Trance. Why not? And the only other 0-cost card I got was another Warcry. Oh, but... I can put this back on top of my deck. And that should be good enough to end things now. Okay. 16 gold. Alright. Card choice time. Iron Wave, which I think we already have some of. Or Sever Soul. Number 1, more Iron Wave. Notice how the deck is already 48 cards. Also, Early Merchant. Not terribly helpful being this early. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13. I guess 14 options because there's no card removal option. Five. 1, 2, 3. That's true. But still, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number 5 definitely can. So, metallicize. And then literally nothing is affordable after that. So, yeah, leave. Seth, I don't know if you were here early enough. Well, I mean, you probably saw, but that initial comment in the chat about, you know, finding more viewers and stuff like that, that literally happened within the first minute of my live stream. It's just like, how? It's like the bots are getting more advanced. I could do most of this stuff. I'll do Iron Wave to get some block. And otherwise, Searing Blow and Sword Boomerang will get the most damage on my opponent. 2 shops this early. I did not notice. Oh yeah, dang. So the next room is also going to be a shop. Not sure we'll be able to get too much. But, oh well. Okay, card choice. Dark Embrace or Twin Strike. We do already have a Dark Embrace, but that doesn't matter when leaving things up to chance. 6. That would be Twin Strike. Okay. Another merchant. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, 4 valid choices here, and then option 5 is leave. So, yeah, I mean, we're probably better off skipping this anyway. Okay. Skipping the merchant. Next battle. Wait, what's the 4 now? What? Now you're confusing me with all the numbers you're throwing my way. Alright, it just adds a copy into my hand. Oh, well, we're kind of past the shop now. Sword boomerang. And I'll just end my turn. Okay, not too many damage dealing things here, but also I'm getting plenty of things with which to block, at least. Battle trance. I don't know, just cuz. Okay. Now I could do seeing red. Maybe I should have played Dark Embrace before. Oh well. But I just draw a card, I don't gain more energy or anything like that. More cry. Just card to put on top. We'll go with one of the metallicizes, I guess, because why not? Why not? Oh, that's right, I can't draw any more cards. Duh. Okay, whatever. Perfected Strike, be gone. 12 gold. Strength potion. Okay. Card choice time. Okay. Evens means the second choice. Therefore, Heavy Blade. We now have 57 cards. What do you mean? Because skipping it was an option? Yeah, sorry, I forgot. I wasn't trying to ignore it. I forgot, okay? So, like, I don't know. There were still previous times you mentioned stuff like that that kind of confused me as well with the shop. But anyway. We'll move on. I will try to remember that better next time. Okay. About to get hurt some this turn, but at least then next turn I won't take any damage. So, Twin Strike on that one, because it's closer to being dead. War Cry. Let's put Second Wind back on top. In case I actually, like, really need some defense from it next turn. Let me play Seeing Red first. Heavy Blade. Honestly, I think I'd rather do Iron Wave and Metallicize. Anger. Maybe should have dual wielded that. Oh well, Pummel's gonna end it. Okay. Gold. Anchor. Attack Potion. Alright. So, now. Bludgeon, Limit Break, or Skip. We have a 1, which means I'm taking Bludgeon. You know, there was another time when I was selecting a card, and it seemed like there was no mention of forgetting the skip in the considering of options. But anyway. Alright, so option number 1 here. Another battle. So, I will definitely play Anger. Not going to argue with 0 energy cost damage. You know what? Sword Boomerang, Metallicize. And not really much point in playing War Cry, because I'll just have to put the card that I draw back on the top of my draw pile. Okay, another Anger. That's 12. If I do Seeing Red, and then all these other ones, I win. Okay. 13 gold, and Carnage, Body Slam, or Skip. Those are our current options. Number 2, Body Slam. Okay. Definitely no confusion there. No, like, looping back around through the options that way. Another 2, which means we're fighting an elite. Just making sure that notification I got was nothing important. Nope. Okay. So definitely playing Anger. And then I guess I'll do Bludgeon because Body Slam, well, Body Slam would deal 10 damage, but that's still only 24 between Body Slam and Heavy Blade, as opposed to dealing 32 with Bludgeon. Just thought I'd double check that the one potion up there was a strength potion, not a flex potion. Whenever you play skill, gains 2 strength. Well, there's that. And then I'm only going to play Seeing Red so that I can do both of my other attacks. Okay. Oh. Cleave wins it. Okay. 32 gold. Orichalcum, which gives me block if I end a turn without any. And then card choice time. Juggernaut, Exhume, or Skip. So, we've got a 5, which means we go back through the cycle. Juggernaut, Exhume, Skip. And then back around to Exhume. Okay. And now we have a chest. With a tiny chest. Every 4th question mark room is a treasure room. We have encountered literally no question mark rooms. I don't think. No. Literally none. And now, another elite. Well, this, didn't we actually have an elite before? Yeah, this is actually elite number 3 right now. Well, since pretty much all I have here are attacks, okay, well, if I copy Anger, that's 6, 12, 22, 30, still not as much damage as I would get with Bludgeon. So, Thwack. And Anger. Too bad I don't have Seeing Red. So then I could, you know, play both Perfected Strikes here. Oh well. Perfected Strike number 1. And then Pummel. And I guess that's it. Hooray for Orichalcum. So let's see here. That would be 5, 10. So I could gain 15 block and play Heavy Blade still. Or I do Seeing Red. No, I couldn't dual wield Heavy Blade in addition to that because I still got to pay the cost for both Heavy Blades. So yeah, I think I'll do the whole 15 block thing. And Heavy Blade. Okay. Now it's not even going to attack me this turn. Perfected Strike. And Twin Strike. Oh yeah, Twin Strike increases the Perfected Strike effect. Damage thing. White Beast Statue. Potions always appear in combat rewards. I'll have to make sure I start using them more. Skill potion. Card selection. We have limit break, double tap, or skip. I have nothing currently that boosts my strength, so limit break would not be especially helpful. But we leave this up to randomness. See, now double tap, in my opinion, is essentially the better version of dual wield. Because, well, we're not going to get either card. Because with dual wield, you still got to pay the cost of the card that's copied. Double tap just does it twice. No extra cost. But anyway, we're skipping. Alrighty. We've got either our first question mark room or another regular battle. I realized we're doing Ascension 1. Of course we're running into a bunch of elites. Okay, so 4 right now. Not 3. Which means battle. Okay. And since I should be using potions, let me see what I might do here. Well, Perfected Strike, Iron Wave, and then let me see what I get from the Skill Potion. Are we going to randomize this bit too, or not, since it's part of the combat? Yes, okay. So 4 options, I guess, technically, because I can just skip it. 3, another Exhume, which currently does nothing because none of my cards have been exhausted. Oh well. Yeah. Bludgeon. I win. Gambler's Brew. Discard any number of cards, then draw that many. Ugh. I mean, I guess if I have certain hand options. Anyway. Already preempting the card choice with a 1. Okay. So I guess I'm taking Body Slam. Good. Okay. Alright, so either we encounter another elite now, or do a question mark room and another elite late after that, yeah. So, question mark room it is. Oh, hello. Come across a dead adventurer. Right. Three. Couldn't find anything. Continue searching? Question mark. Yeah. So now we leave. Oh well. I'm thinking maybe on a later turn it might be a good, or maybe even on this turn it would be a good time for the attack. Although, I'm not really the biggest fan of the Gambler's Brew. I'd rather get rid of that when it's not particularly important. So, tell you what. I'm drinking the Gambler's Brew, discarding Exhume. I don't really need any blocks, so I don't plan to play Shrug It Off this turn either. Dual Wield I would only potentially use on Body Slam. But I might do that, because that would actually get more damage than Searing Blow. Well, no, it wouldn't. Not compared to Searing Blow and Body Slam. Anyway, confirm those two. Let's see what I draw. Bludgeon! That's probably more damage than any of them would do anyway. So, whack. Okay, and now I have all attacks. Iron Wave would make it so I only take 1 damage this turn. And then I could do... I guess Sword, Boomerang, and Cleave would give me the most damage at this point. Because Body Slam's only going to do 5. And Searing Blow is 12, but it costs 2 energy. So there we go. Oh, geez. Okay. 2 copies of Seeing Red. Interesting. Okay, so here's the thought. Dark Embrace. Seeing Red. More Seeing Red. That's 24. That's 34. That is technically more damage than Bludgeon now. Oh, you know what? Doesn't matter. I win. Okay. 31 gold. Bottled Lightning. Let me get my other stuff first, because that might potentially affect what I choose for Bottled Lightning. Alrighty. For our card choices, we have Offering, Reaper, or neither. There we go. Okay, I was like... I can never be 100% sure that anybody in particular is still there. Even Seth, although for the most part, Seth's pretty good about saying stuff when he's gonna leave. Bottled Lightning. So, which skill do I want to start each battle with? I mean... Right. It doesn't matter what I want to pick. So there's 5, 10, 15, 21... 21 if you count all the copies of each card. Or if you'd rather just boil it down to 7. But no, I do think the odds would somehow be slightly different. Even though in theory it would be similar. Okay. 3, 6, 7. So dual wield it is. Okay, proceeding. Another battle. We have had so many battles in this run so far. Do I want to dual wield pummel just to get some more damage in there? Because I'm only going to take 2 this turn as things stand. Actually, you know what? Let me use my attack potion and see what I get from that. Or, wait. Should I technically be waiting for random potion choices? I hadn't even really considered that. Okay, well, amongst these card choices, we've got Whirlwind. Definitely would not want to copy that, but I might want to use that right now, because then it'll deal 15 damage to both of them, rather than slightly more damage to just one. And when I say slightly more, I think it would literally only be 16 to one of them. Ooh, Reaper. Actually, seeing red, and then I think if I do Reaper, and then Twin Strike on this one, and Iron Wave on that one, I win. 16 gold blood potion. Heal for 20% of your max HP. And card choice time. We got a Flex and a Power Through. Flex is temporary strength for the turn. Power Through. Add 2 wounds into your hand, but gain 15 block. Okay. And since skip is technically a choice, roll of a 5 means we're taking Power Through. And we have entered our first rest site? Yeah. First rest site. Doesn't really matter which one, because they're both rest sites. I am not going to rest, though. I'm definitely going to smith. You want to just make it a D25 roll instead of 75? Oh, doggone it. So, I guess I should just cancel. Because it would have landed on rest, which would have done me nothing. So, okay, I can just cancel the smith and... Right. See, we haven't randomly selected potions yet, which is what I find a little confusing about all that. But I guess because that could significantly affect how the combat goes overall for me. Like right now, I might think to myself, oh, I really would like to use this strength potion. But if it's going to be randomized, which potion I use, then I would pretty much be forced, well, I would feel like maybe I should wait until after I take some damage, so then I don't waste the blood potion, but at the same time, that then means the strength potion would get used later and is thus less effective in the battle in which it's used. So, well, we only normally do potions when tossed. Yeah. So, since we don't normally randomize potions in combat, I'll go ahead and use my strength potion. Oh, okay. Well, I've done the strength potion, but nothing else so far. If I say the next line, okay. I don't even know what that would mean. Oh, because I'm not familiar with Hamlet. Yeah, like, I know a very little bit of Shakespeare, not that much. Oh, was that supposed to say spire instead of spite? No? Okay. Anyway. Accepting the ghost. Anyway. Yeah, I see the line there. Like, I feel like you're trying to convince me to say it just by repeating it. I don't know if I want that. Okay. I'm curious what you mean, but of course, I'm obligated to do it if I say that, because you're just going to be all riddly about it. So my impression would be that I would essentially cede control of my battle to you. Alright, fine. Just this once. And only because the stream isn't going to be that much longer anyway. But I suppose then I am obligated to say the line to make it happen. Till the run is... Well, then what if I'm in the middle of the same run at a totally different time? Yeah. So it would only really apply for today. Okay. Fine. But I suppose I have to say the line to make it happen, which means I gotta scroll back up and find the line. Unless you type it out again. Alright. If we're pulling Shakespeare references, let me try and do my best Shakespearean actor. Oh, cursed spire, how I was born to set it awry. Alright. There we go. It's official. I did use the strength potion before all this, but that's the only thing that I've done so far. The rest is out of my hands, figuratively. Okay. Also, do we include potions in the options at all given moments? And if so, where in the choices? Do we? No? Okay. Cards and end turn buttons. So I still have control over potions? Alright, so I played card number 3. Oh, the 6 was a reroll. Number 2 would be Heavy Blade. And now 5. I'm like, what would 5 get me at this point? I assume 5 became a reroll then. Okay. And 4 means end the turn, I assume. Yeah. Okay. Alrighty. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards in hand. Plus the int. Really? Well. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and weak potion this guy. Although, if I'm using a potion, does that... Do I cede control of that? No? Okay. Weak potion. Well, at least the damage is being reduced. Okay. What a waste of a turn that was. Two. Okay. So now one of these has to go back to the top of my draw pile. Another 2. Metallicize. Okay. So far, we're not real big on defenses, or even just playing cards in general. Good thing this isn't, you know, a standard run where I'm actually trying to accomplish anything in particular. Okay, Sword Boomerang. is card number 3. A 1 would be Metallicize. Now, the Perfect Strikes cannot be played currently. Body Slam for 1 damage. Which doesn't even break through the armor. Okay. See, yeah, one. Reaper. So I really only essentially gained 1 HP from that. Card number I guess 2 becomes Shrug It Off because Heavy Blade is unplayable. So, Shrug It Off. Technically Anger is an option. But, nope, we're ending the turn. Because another 2 has been rolled. Number 4 is another Metallicize. More block for me. 3. Dark Embrace. Not sure exactly how helpful that's gonna be, but oh well. And I literally can't play any cards, so I have to just end the turn now. Okay, number 4. Perfected Strike. Cool, we finally got some damage in. Some decent damage. Perfected Strike can't be played. Which means number 4 turns into ending the turn. Oof. Alright. Okay, that's worded slightly different, but whatever. No Cursed Spire. How I was born to set it awry. What, does that mean we are undoing the ghostly command? But how long? Okay. What do I want to do with this? Yeah, Bludgeon's probably the play here. Because otherwise I would just be doing Second Wind for all of 5 block. And then, yeah. Bludgeon it is. Continue, okay. More metallicizing. Interesting. Definitely not inclined to argue too much with that, though. I will power through and then body slam. Okay. Now we go back again. Oh, cursed spire, how I was born to set it awry. Number 1, ugh. 2 damage. Yippee. Number 2. Okay, well at least Heavy Blade's gonna deal some more damage. Ending the turn now, I guess. One, 2, 3, 4. Seeing red. Hopefully I'm not getting more energy just to waste it all on ending the turn immediately. Another 4. Shrug it off. Well, at least I got some block. Another 4. Bludgeon. Okay. Well, that's definitely not a waste of a turn then. All I could play now is either Warcry. Well, I could only play Warcry or end the turn, pretty much. Warcry it is, I guess. I mean, it doesn't really do anything, though. I would like to put Exhume back on top of... Oh, but it's just going to come right back in. Because Warcry gets exhausted. Duh. Okay, turn's going to end then. Alright. What are we doing? One, 2, 3, 4. A 2 damage body slam. Woo. Card number 3 is an Iron Wave. Number 2, another Iron Wave. Just about enough damage, and not too much more than that, for it to go into this mode. Okay, ending the turn. No, cursed spire. How I was born to set it awry. I feel like the last part of that line should, like, be altered a bit. Rather than just going between oh and no, because, I don't know. It just doesn't quite seem as fitting. Okay, so I gather then that I'm back in control for the time being. Power through. And then Sword Boomerang? Kind of glad that only counts once, even though it hits 3 times. Also, ads are coming any second now for Twitch, folks. Okay, that turn's done. Okay. Continuing. Iron Wave. Oh, and then I can cleave twice and win the battle. Hooray! Okay, and ads have kicked in. I will obviously take the gold and the block potion. Okay. Might need to wait for Twitch ads to be done before the card choice thing. Before I get the result of the card choice, let's put it that way. Or not. A 6 has been rolled, so no card is chosen. We skip. And now we have relics to choose from. Mark of Pain, gaining energy at the start of your turn. At the start of combat, shuffle 2 wounds into your draw pile. That's not terrible. Slaver's Collar, during boss and elite combats, gaining energy at the start of your turn. Or the Calling Bell, upon pickup, obtain a unique curse and 3 relics. What are we considering the order to be, though? That's what I'm not sure of. So, because it starts off at the top relic... Okay, so we're doing reading order, which means the bell... No. I guess the Mark of Pain is number 1, then. Followed by the bell, and then the collar. So, on a roll of 5, that means we're doing the bell. No, what? Yeah, true. There is a skip. Okay. So, 1, 2, 3, skip would be 4. So 5 brings us back to the Mark of Pain. So, extra energy at the start of every turn in exchange for having 2 wounds. Okay. Well then, I guess just to lock that in at least, we gotta do something here. Number 3. Okay. Well, I did say the stream would be a bit on the shorter side, and it is probably time I wrap things up. Partially because I also, need to shower and do some other things tonight before I get any sleep. Yeah. Okay, so that was intentionally... the word awry was intentionally chosen as, like, an opposite to setting it right. And, of course, Spire just because of playing Slay the Spire. And otherwise, the spelling is similar to spite. Okay. Hey. Spite and... yeah, well... Spire and awry, it's like... I forget what the technical term is, but it's like a off rhyme. It's like sort of a similar sound, but it's not quite exactly a perfect rhyme. Anyway. Okay. So that's all I got for tonight's stream because of going into work tomorrow and such. I'm just gonna look for a raid target on Twitch, and that'll be it for me. Famous thing of Hamlet is that he only does rhyming at the end of certain speeches. Seeing who all is streaming right now, especially out of those who I follow before I do any raids. Not entirely sure how long it's been since I've raided Samus, but I feel like it's been a little bit. So I'm thinking Samus will be my raid target. Okay. And with that being said, that is going to do it for me tonight. Oh, yeah. Tomorrow's stream, I cannot promise when it will be, but it will be. And it'll be more Kingdom Hearts 3 stuff. We're getting near the end of the game. Right now we're in the middle of like a big labyrinth thing full of big boss type bad guy enemies. Yes, likely later stream than normal. By how much is what I'm not sure of. Hopefully not much more than like a couple of hours. In any case, so yeah, tomorrow's stream, more Kingdom Hearts 3. Next week will be more Bible study, and I'm not sure if I'll just save this Slay the Spire run to continue next week, or if I'll dive back into some Hades. Either way, more roguelike stuff, probably. In any case... Alright, well, we're about to hop into Samus' stream, whether I initiate it now or not. So that's all for me. Hope you're all doing well. Hopefully I'll see you soon. Stay cool, everybody.